Okay, hello everybody. This is the second video with regard to installing the evaporator in the Superlite coupe. And what we're looking at is really the top part of the front chassis. And these holes basically are where the air gets pushed into from the evaporator. So give you a little perspective. Here's the passenger compartment. There's the evaporator. It's literally going to be installed under this area, and it will send the air up, and then this fiberglass structure in the shape of an anchor, that's the AC, it's called the AC plenum, and basically that directs the air, so it'll direct the air to the right front vent, the left front vent, and then the defrosters. And if you want just the defrosters working, you can manually close the vents up. And apparently this system, gives plenty of cooling and heating power because it's a small system, but the cockpit area in an SLC is very small. Okay, so what I will do now is I'm going to segue back to finishing up the modifications on the heater and AC core, and then we'll also show mounting the evaporator in the chassis. The rest of the AC install will be left to a later time. Thanks for following along and stay tuned. All right, well, I want to straighten these pipes out. I came up with an idea that I'll create a little bit of a press. And I'll put this on both sides, and then I'll use a C-clamp and slowly close it, and it should straighten this pipe out. So that's the concept. I did speak to another builder. What they did was they cut this and then reflared the tip of it. So I may wind up doing that, but I figured I'd give this a try, see how it goes. All right, well, this is the technique I'm using to straighten these pipes out. I have a piece of Delrin plastic. It's actually hollowed out to the shape of the tube, and then a thicker wood piece that's longer. I would have used another piece of plastic, but I didn't have one that long. And I think this will straighten out the tube as straight as it needs to be. You can see the difference between this one and that one. So I'm gonna let's see, loosen this up and see what happens. I must say it's not straight as an arrow, but you know what? I think it's gonna do okay for our purpose. So I'm gonna do the other one, and we'll continue on with our modification here. We'll put the wood block on the back here. I may raise it up a little bit, but I'm going to put the plastic on, and then we'll get crank. Here we go. We're going to do the second tube here. You can see the difference. I mean, it worked pretty good. I may tilt it at the base just a little bit, but we got this trigger clamp, and that's clamping the piece of wood behind the tube. And you can see, I have it cut out to, I think it's 5/8 inch, so we don't deform the tube. And then I have this piece of Delrin plastic, which is very slippery, and it's a little larger than 5/8, but I shaved it down so that it can generate some clamping force on the tube. All right, so I'm going to place this on and crank it over, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, that worked okay. I'm going to raise up this block now and crunch the top over, and let's see if we can get it a bit straighter. Okay, I cranked it up pretty good. I'm going to take this off and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, we got it pretty good. Certainly good enough. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to slowly tilt these copper lines over. I mean, they're just soldered into the bigger lines, so I just like to visually get this so it's straight up and down, and then I'll call it a wrap with adjusting the copper tube. So let's see what we can do. Okay, well, before I try to tilt it over, I figured I'd make one more pass at the wood block. So I have a nice tall wood block. We're going to try to sandwich this, and the nice thing about the flare, it's stronger than the rest of the tool, so I can just really sandwich it right into this wood, and it'll work out pretty good. So let's see how this works. Okay, so I think that worked out pretty good. You can see there's really straight vertical, and there's also a little bit of an air gap between this tube and this tube. This is actually heat and this is AC, and you use a little bit of this tar, you squeeze it in there to keep those pipes away from each other. But I would say that worked out quite well. We didn't distort the tubing at all. was very gentle, and this making that little press with the 5/8 channel drilled into it worked out quite well. Okay, so we're going to reclock that AC nozzle, and then we can assemble the kit back together. Okay, well, I peeled away all this tar stuff. They actually sell this, it's like $6 for a whole packet of it, so I may get some new tar and just tar it up really well when I'm done. But anyway, I exposed this nut, and basically I'll loosen this nut, and then I'm going to reclock this particular nozzle for the AC system. I wasn't sure what this was, if this is a hollow tube or just a ground. I really didn't know, so I went on the forum and I posted the question, and somebody immediately got back to me and told me this is a hollow tube filled with a certain type of refrigerant gas. Other than that, I'm not sure really what it does, so I don't want to speculate. But anyway, it's fragile. I've got to be very careful when I reclock this. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. I'll reclock it, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, well, I finally loosened this nut up. I will tell you, this was unbelievably tight. I used a 22mm wrench to grab it here, and I go to the store and get a long 14mm wrench to grab it here, and I had to exert quite a bit of force on this thing. You have to be very careful because it's attached, to this copper tube, and you don't want to damage that. You don't want to damage this tube on top either, like I mentioned. But anyway, I'm in good shape now. I'm going to reposition this, and we'll take it from there. Okay, I tighten that up. I would say this is mission accomplished. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to assemble the box. I'm going to take the evaporator out, and then I'm going to mount the box in the chassis, and then I'll put the heater AC core back in, and we'll call it a wrap. Okay, so anyway, here's the side view. I reapplied all that black goop. I covered up this little tube, and it's basically there to, I guess, insulate these pipes, and also from keeping some of the pipes with that are close together from knocking into each other. So all in all, this is good. I'll probably add the silicone back in here once I have it all assembled. But the next step really is to here's the box, and I'm basically going to glue in some panels that I fabbed up out of ABS plastic. So we'll close this side up, we'll reassemble this, and then we will mount it in the chassis. Okay, so these are the supplies we're going to use to patch up this box. Now, the box is made out of ABS plastic, and ABS is flexible, it's a little slippery, and this particular glue, this is a little bit of a trick I'm taking from the RC car hobby. So you have these polycarb or flexible Lexan bodies, and when they split, when you're in an accident and they split, you use some sheetrock fiberglass tape, and then you apply this to the back of the crack, and then you apply the shoe goo. And shoe goo is this flexible glue that stays flexible, it's weatherproof, and also it adheres to slippery plastic really well. So I'll show you how I go about doing this, and I think it'll come out well. Alright, so we sort of put some glue around the edge of it to get it in there, and then I smear just a bunch of glue on the back. It's pretty thin, but then we're going to apply the sheetrock tape, and then I'll cover that with shoe goo, and then we'll be done. Okay, so I put 2 layers of the fiberglass reinforcement tape, and now I'll cover this up with the black shoe goo, and then we'll let this dry overnight, and it's going to be surprisingly strong, and this will do the job. Alright, here we go. So here's the front of the repair. I could trim that glue up with a little razor blade, make it look a little better. I mean, it's going to be hidden under the dash, so it's no big deal. But the important thing is this is the this is the repair. And you've got 2 layers of fiberglass reinforcement tape, and you have the shoe goo, and this is going to adhere to the ABS plastic really well. So this will do a good job at closing this box up. Okay, so now it's the next morning, and I let the shoe goo dry, and you can see, I mean, it's still flexible, but it's this piece of plastic is held in there very firmly, so I think this came out great. Here's a peek. Let's see if we can, there you go. Here's a peek of the glue that's all dried, and this is a great mod for what we're looking to do. So I think I'm going to call it a wrap on the evaporator modification. So I'll summarize. Let's see, what did we have to do? We took out the AC core because we wanted to swap it from the right side of the evaporator box to the left side. We used a press to straighten out these heater tubes, and then we had to peel off all this tar goo and re-clock this AC fitting. And now what I'll do is I'll reassemble it all, and then I'll mount it in the chassis. So I'll leave that for the next video. I'll actually mount this without the AC core in it because it'll be lighter. It'll be easier to maneuver, and then I'll put it all back together, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so thanks for watching. Take care.